Good morning, 5th grade, best grade, or afternoon or evening. Today we're going to be talking about the 12 tables. For Rome, this is much like the Code of the Hammurabi was for Mesopotamia. This is their source for their laws for their republic. So we're going to go through table by table. Blah, blah, blah. So the background information about the 12 tables: in 451 BC, a special group of 10 patricians. Now, patricians are the elite upper class people in ancient Rome. They're the people who have all the money. They were given the responsibility for writing down Rome's laws and customs and making them public for the first time. The plebeians, these are the people with less money, put pressure on the Senate to do this. They hoped this would limit the power of the patricians. The laws dealt with legal procedures, debt, family relations, property, and other matters of public and sacred law. Roman schoolboys during the next 400 years of the Roman Republic had to memorize all of these laws. I won't make you memorize them all. We're just going to work on understanding them. The code was inscribed on bronze plaques, which eventually were destroyed. These excerpts are reconstructions by later writers. Table 1, Civil Procedures. If someone is accused and called to go to court, he must go. If he does not go, he may send a witness to stand for him. If he does not come or send a witness, he may be captured and forced to come to court. Roman citizens couldn't get out of going to a court date. They would be captured and brought to court, just like people will get arrested and brought to court if they don't show up for us now. Table 2, Civil Procedures. If a person needs evidence or a witness, he may go every third day to the doorway of the person and call for him. So, if I was being accused for murder, and I knew that Wally was playing board games with me, and so she would know that I definitely hadn't committed murder, but I couldn't get a hold of her, I was allowed to go to her house every third day to call for her and be like, "Wally, come out, I need you to be my alibi." But I can't annoy her every day. I only get to do it every third day. Table 3, Debt. If a person owes a debt and is brought to court, he shall have 30 days to pay the debt. After 30 days, if the debt is not paid, the person owing the debt may be put in chains. After 60 days in custody, the person owing the debt can be sold into slavery or be put to death if the debt is not settled. So, let's say I borrowed a pencil from Sienna, and I didn't have another pencil to give Sienna back. So Sienna could go to court, and the court would say, "We've got 30 days to get Sienna another pencil." If after 30 days I still don't get a pencil, they could chain me up. And they've chained me up, and none of my friends or family can come and give Sienna a pencil for what I owe her, maybe 2 or 3 pencils and interest at this point, then I could be sold to slavery. And then they would use the money from selling me to pay back Sienna for the pencil. That's kind of how they worked out debt. Table 4, Parents and Children. If a child is born with a severe deformity, it shall be killed. Parents have the right to sell their children into slavery. So it was part of the law that your children were owned by you and not themselves. So, if I need some money because, I want to move, or, I want to work on the wedding, I could sell Oliver into slavery and get some money. That would be allowed in Roman law. Table 5, Inheritance. If a person goes insane, he shall not have power over his goods, and they shall be given to his nearest male relative. If a person dies without a male heir, his nearest male relative shall inherit his goods. Women shall always be given a male guardian to accompany them. If you notice, only men are receiving any inheritance in this law. And it does not completely say how you prove someone is insane. So it's also possible that you could convince people that your perfectly sane relative is actually insane. Like, let's say my brother is inheriting things, but, I'm not male. But let's say I'm Zachary, and my brother is about to get all of the inheritance, and I could just convince people that he was insane and take the inheritance for myself. That's possible. And it just the inheritances just go from male to male, and women had to have a male guardian at all times. Table 6, property. If a person makes a promise or a contract verbally, it shall be considered binding and must be fulfilled. So when a student comes in and says, I'm going to get Oliver a puppy, they have to get Oliver a puppy. If a man and a woman shall live together for a year, they shall be considered married. This could cause a problem when women have to have a legal male guardian, because if they lived together for a year, they would be considered married. Table 7, real property. If a person built a road and it becomes unusable because of decay or damage, travelers may travel across the property wherever they wish and are not bound to use the road. And if a person's road or building shall cause damage to another's property, the owner of the road or building shall pay for the damage. So if I have a road across my yard and it has this giant pothole in it, like it's real big, and if you were to ride your cart over it would break your wheel. If you decided that it would be much smoother for you to ride through my garden, I couldn't do anything about it because I didn't take care of the road that was on my property. If I owned an inn and my inn collapsed on you, I would have to pay all the damages for my inn collapse. So you are responsible for the damage that you cause in your properties. Table 8, crimes. If a person insults or gossips about another person publicly, the person who did the insulting or gossiping shall be clubbed to death. If a person injures another person physically, he will be injured in the same way unless he agrees to pay for damages. No one may hold meetings at night. If a person who is called to be a witness in court and lies, he shall be thrown from a cliff. If a person throws something without aiming and injures another person, he shall owe that person 1 ram. Several of these things that are listed as crimes have happened in my classroom, and I'm pretty sure I would have some students clubbed to death, some students owing each other rams if they just throw something without aiming. And, how can you prove that you aimed if you're a really bad thrower? Be like, I totally aimed to hit over there. So you better really practice your throwing if you don't have a lot of extra rams lying around. Luckily, we've had no meetings at night so far. We'll see what happens. I'm really curious as what kind of punishment goes along with holding a meeting at night. Table 9, constitutional principles. A man cannot be put to death without first having been found guilty in court. A judge who's found guilty of taking a bribe shall be put to death. It is forbidden to pass laws in private. It's also forbidden to pass laws against a single person. So I can't say, Jonah has been found guilty, without anyone actually seeing a court proceeding go on. I can't just announce that one of my students will be put to death. If I were to accept a bribe, if a student was like, hey, Miss Lynn, if I gave you $20, could you give me an A? If I had taken that $20, I would have to be put to death, which is very unfortunate. I don't prefer to be put to death. Passing laws in private. I can't go have a secret meeting with Miss Polo and be like, Miss Polo, it is now against the law for 5th graders to wear blue. And then the next day, you guys come in and you wear blue, and I say, you have broken the law, go straight to the dean. That's not allowed. It's also forbidden to pass laws against a single person. I can't, in Rome, say Leah Copeland is not allowed to wear her hair in a ponytail. It's against the law. There can't be, and while allowing all other people to wear their hair in ponytails. You can't create a law just for one person. Only Leah Copeland may not wear her hair in a ponytail. So that's forbidden in Roman law. Table 10, funeral rites. No man shall be buried or cremated within the city. Women are not allowed to mourn loudly or slap their own cheeks or tear their clothes during a funeral. Not being buried or cremated within the city could have to do with health, and, it's not like you have a whole lot of land space for burying people in a city. It would also, the smoke involved in cremation probably would make the city dirtier. Women not mourning loudly. Stoicism was really important to the Romans. They didn't want to show a whole lot of emotion outright. So women not being able to mourn loudly, that fits in with some of their culture. There are places in the world where you can actually pay for people to come to your funeral to mourn loudly as a way of trying to show how beloved the person who's died has been, because they believe that the more loud mourners you have, the more important that person was to you. In Rome, it's not appropriate for that kind of funeral. Table 11, marriage laws. Marriages are forbidden between plebeians and patricians. Men in the army may not marry until their training is complete. With marriages not being allowed between plebeians and patricians, you have a very distinct social class order, and they want to keep them separate. You want to have my husband is a patrician, but I'm a plebeian, and have this confusion about where they fit in society. They wanted their distinction. Men in the army, they most likely didn't want them being distracted by a new marriage, and they want them to make sure that they are completely trained before having to deal with that. Table 12, punishments. If a person accuses another but is lying, the liar must pay double the penalty of the crime or be put to death. So when Oliver tells me he's cleaned his room, but he hasn't cleaned his room, he would have to be grounded for maybe 2 days, though maybe not put to death. The 8 forms of punishment are fines, placing in chains, whipping, inflicting the same injury as was committed, public humiliation, banishment from the city, slavery, and death. So even in their tables, they have a list of punishments that they allow to be part of their broken rules. And I think that's smart. I apologize. I'm very sleepy. And that's a smart way to kind of build that in together with the tables. So those are the 12 tables. I hope my little explanations throughout help you with your assignment. I miss you guys, and I can't wait to see you guys next year. 5th grade, best grade.